back in the studio, man.
Back in the studio. It's good to be here. I love coming down
I feel like
here.
in the last episode was the first time I'd seen you, or
Yeah.
we were recording pretty regularly there for a while, and
Yeah.
had to take a just life.
Life
stuff.
came up. Well, y'all went out west, right?
Yes, we spent a week in Washington, and so that was great. Had a great time. Just did a lot of hikes and stuff. We may have mentioned it on another podcast, but Katie and I, for our 10-year anniversary, we're going to go to Mexico.
Yeah.
Had a trip planned, had a place booked and everything through our travel agent, and a giant mass of seaweed, like natural disaster type size, hit all of Cancun, and we were actually going to Playa del Carmen, which is where we honeymooned. And so we thought, hey, that'd be cool to go back for a 10-year. But just watching the videos and stuff on the internet, it was pretty bad. The seaweed basically makes it where you can't even get in the ocean, and it washes up on the beach. And once it starts to kind of decay, it smells really bad, and it's an eye irritant. And it's pretty bad. So everybody we tell, it's like, oh, there's too much seaweed, you didn't go to Mexico. They kind of laugh, and I'm like, no, you don't understand.
This is
like they had like bulldozers on the beach trying to clean it up.
crazy.
It was like a natural disaster, really.
Jeez.
So all that to say, we changed our plans. Katie had always wanted to go to Mount Rainier. We did Mount Hood in Oregon a few years prior, and so we just got an Airbnb and went and stayed out there, and it was killer, man. We saw elk and lots of wildlife. We didn't see any bears. Did a lot of really awesome hikes, and it was fun. It was really cool.
How's the weather?
Weather was great. It was, kind of like here now, as of this recording, we're kind of getting into the more fall weather, so it's cool in the mornings and the evenings. But during the day, low humidity, but still warm, so that's basically what it was.
Awesome.
And, we had a great time.
Good.
So,
I've never been out there, so it's on the list.
Oh, yeah, put it on the list, man. If you like just going outside, we basically just did hikes every day and stuff. And, it was a lot of fun. So, I would definitely encourage anybody that wants to see some real mountains, which we do not have in Alabama. We have, like, bunny hills. To see some real mountains is just like, it's just something you don't see. Living here in the South. And so, it was just great. And the Airbnb that we had a really good view, not of Mount Rainier, but of another mountain. And so we would just sit out there and drink coffee and just, like, look around. And I'm sure everybody that lives there is like, what's the big deal? It's like,
we see this every day.
Not funny side note, Katie showed me a video just being used to the places that you live. She was like, check this out. There's a bunch of people taking pictures, and there was, like, a thunderstorm. And it was somewhere where they'd never get rain. And I was like, okay, what am I looking at? And she's like, they're taking pictures of the lightning. They've never seen lightning. Or they don't ever see it very often.
Yeah.
And it was somewhere either out west or, New Mexico or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And they're like there's like 30 or 40 people, and they're all just taking pictures of the lightning with their phone. They're like, oh, my God, I've never seen lightning. And I'm just like, who cares, man? We see lightning like once a week.
Yeah.
So, interesting. But, man, what's been going on with you?
Man, a lot of hurry up and wait, I feel like, on the investing piece of what I'm doing. I have trouble sitting still, and I was going to say, like, a vacation like that sounds fun to me because we're hiking every day, we're moving. Yeah, I would love doing that. I can only sit on the beach actually just came back from the beach, and I think I actively spent under 2 hours sitting in a chair. I just can't do it.
I got to dig a trench, build a sandcastle. We got to go swim a mile. We got to do something.
Just that's just staying active. And so, and that kind of translates to my work day, and just not, I'm not great at sitting at the desk all day, or I've got to be just doing something. And we've talked about kind of the coaching and unique ability aspect is more on the front end, deal acquisition and chasing it and talking with people and the structure. And I've got 3 pretty big things of investment going on right now that phase is over, and we're kind of in the middle of it, about to close it, or kind of just in the hurry up and wait period.
And bring me up to speed. What are those?
Yeah, so one of them is the big office building in Vestavia. I haven't talked a ton about it because we had some kind of hiccups trying to get it under contract and going through, but we've got that. We're closing it about 30 days. It'll be one of the biggest commercial, ignoring multifamily, the biggest like office building I've bought. It's about 22,000 feet.
Wow.
It's huge, and it's a great deal. Once we close it, we'll kind of dive into the structure together on here.
Mm-hmm.
And then the another one is going through and not officially announcing anything, but looking to purchase another company that would just
Yeah, you kind of hinted at that before.
Yeah, we've talked. Still working through that, but a lot of like I
Okay.
said, I'm kind of in the hurry up and wait phase now for that one. And
Well, I'm excited to talk about that. So when you're
yeah,
ready, let
yeah,
the cat
yeah.
out of the bag.
Whenever it's ready, yeah, we'll be
Okay.
full force in it. So it's gonna be pretty exciting. And then the third, of course, being the castle.
The infamous castle. Yeah.
The big castle. So yeah, those and it's in a phase, and we can dive into it, but it's in a place of like, okay, guys are on site, they're working, they're going, so it's just like not requiring a lot of my time being there.
Yeah.
And so my natural instinct is like, yeah, I've got a lot going on when I step back, but in the day to day, it's like, I got to go find a deal. I got to go find something. But I'm like, wait a minute, I've got a lot of stuff pending that like when it hits, it's, it's going to get crazy again. And so,
well, maybe you got a little bit of breathing room and stuff. I know your family's growing. That's another big thing
Yes.
I saw.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
congratulations.
So a lot
That's
of changes at the house. I'm getting the nursery ready. We moved our daughter from one room to the other room and making that transition. And it just, life.
Life in general.
It's all good though, all
That's
positive
awesome.
stuff.
Well, one of the things I do want to dive into, it's always a fun conversation, is the Castle Project that you mentioned. I always like to get an update. And I know I've said it before, I'll say it again. Anybody that's not following you on the socials, TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff, kind of getting these updates of the Castle Project, I highly encourage you to do that because it's really interesting. It's a very unique property on the lake.
Yeah.
Probably one of the most unique properties that you'll find on, is it Logan Martin or Smith?
Logan Martin.
Logan Martin. So yeah, give me an update on that. What's the latest?
You almost said Smith, so it's been confused a couple times when I say like, "Hey, we're working on a castle." There's a $4.9 million castle on Smith Lake for sale.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, "Oh, you bought that?" I'm like, "No, ours is not a $5 million project."
The other castle.
Yeah, the smaller, lesser known castle. But yeah, man, it's going good. Like I said, it's kind of in a hurry up and wait. We've got right now we're in kind of rough in phase, if you will. So like new electrical, new plumbing, HVAC, like all the duct work and all that's going in, because we talked about this earlier on, but it was all window units, like built into the side of that doesn't work for like an Airbnb. And so we're having to put in entire new systems. And it's been like kind of 3 months in the design.
How you route everything.
Yeah, because it's so hard because it's 4 different buildings and 10 different levels, which is the worst for conditioning space, right?
Oh my
because
gosh.
Normally it's got to flow, right? You've got to be able to return it and blow it back out, and it's just really tough. So initially we were going to go with like mini splits everywhere,
Just everywhere.
like 10 or 12 heads, just everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And it was, probably about $35,000, which is a lot, but it's like, I got one guy quoted me like 80 grand. I'm like, I can't do that. And then I met with the guys again, cause for Airbnb, and I don't have a lot of experience in this, but mini splits to me, there's a lot of different controls. There's more heads, more remotes, more things that could go wrong. And I may be wrong on that, but that's how I see it.
No, I totally agree because we were in. I mentioned Washington. They had basically an elongated building that they had built, and it had a mini split on each end. And trying to get it dialed in, I mean, we probably spent 10, 15 minutes there just trying to figure out how to make part of the building cooler, which should be, for somebody who just doesn't use them very often. And maybe we're not the brightest, but, I can totally agree. Like, if you walked into a place that had like 12 of them, just be like, oh my God, I just want to cool the building down so I can go to sleep.
Yeah, they're always competing.
Like, you don't want it to be hard.
Yeah, so it's tough. So HVAC people out there, tell me I'm wrong. But what we decided to do is kind of a mixture. So I've got 3 like full central systems that are going to go in different parts that I think we designed it where it's going to flow correctly. And then I still have 3 or 4 mini split heads in there in spaces where just we couldn't get the ducted systems in there. And then in one spot, instead of a mini split, I'm going with I think it's called a PTAT unit, which is like, that's what you see in hotel rooms. The little things that you turn.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's basically a glorified window unit.
Yeah.
But that's going to go.
A little more aesthetic.
Yeah, right, yeah. And a little more powerful as well, from my understanding. They're a little bit bigger and can generate more. But that's going to go in the sunroom, or like the summer house that has the screened-in porch. That's going to be glass, so it's going to be finished, conditioned space. But trying to get, from my limited understanding on how these systems work, it would be like one system for that whole building. And there's a basement and upstairs and the sun porch. And so if you set it on 70, that sun porch is always going to be hotter unless the thermostat's in there reading that. And if that's the case, then the basement's always going to be freezing.
Colder, yeah.
And so, I didn't want to have that just competing all the time. And so we've got the basement and the finished space. They're all finished, but the front space as in one, and then that P-type unit in the sunroom that's just going to be individual. So, yeah, that's.
And if you don't fully grasp the design of this place, I don't blame you. For anybody out there listening, you have to see it. You have to really see it to fully understand it, and it's amazing to see the progress, especially after you guys got a lot of the trees cut and stuff. And now you can see the water and and I know you've explained it to me 100 times, but I still have to visually watch the videos.
Well, I need to get you out there.
Oh, there's the drawbridge. Yeah. Oh, there's the porch. And
I need to get you out there so you can really see it. But so from an aesthetic standpoint, there's not been a ton of progress to look at. It's there's new wire, there's new plumbing pipe. But last week, they started caulking and priming the exterior, and then they've got colors. And so for the next 2 weeks, the outside will be painted, and it's going to be awesome.
What color?
We've got 5 different colors.
5 different colors.
Yeah,
okay.
so it's we've got an inspiration picture we're kind of going off of, and I'll keep the suspense until I get the full thing painted and get over. So I haven't really had an updated video on socials in a couple weeks, just because there hadn't been a ton to show.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's kind of the progress. Awesome. Probably the biggest change is the septic problems I'm having and the guest house. So remember, there's 2 properties.
Okay.
We were going to sell the guest house, and we still might. But both of them need septic work. We knew that going into it. Kind of had budgeted to put in 2 new systems.
Just 2 new systems, yeah.
The problem I'm having, and I'm waiting, I've had multiple engineers out there. A lot of them have just bailed and say, "Nah, I'm not touching this," which is super frustrating. But the problem is there's 2 wells on so it's a big rectangle is the property, and it's 2 parcels, but they're skinny rectangles from road to water. And if you think of them in quadrants, quadrant 1 is up by the road, and then 2, the buildings are in kind of quadrant 3, and you've got land and then water. And quadrant 4 is kind of your yard to the water. 1 and 2 wells are located in 1 and 2. And I've learned all this, but per health department and septic systems, they can't be within 100 feet of a well. And those 2 wells are far enough apart where 1 and 2 are just unusable from putting your.
No matter
your
where
tank.
you go, you're within 100 feet.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so then it leaves quadrant 4. Well, you can't be within 50 feet of the lake. And so I've got an acre and a half, but there's all that's left is this tiny little area to do 2 systems. And they count how big the system has to be for a number of bedrooms. Well, the castle is technically 1 bedroom, so I could get away with it. But from a practical standpoint, I'm going to have 18 people in this place. It's got to be able to support 9 bedrooms, which is a massive system. Meaning I can't do the traditional tank and field line system, which is getting kind of in the details. But I've got to do an engineered system, which just immediately triples or quadruples the price, which hurts. But another thing I've learned, which I have room for, and I'm we just got to bite the bullet. What I've learned is the health department requires a secondary area equally as big that could hold that system if area 1 fails. I don't have a secondary area.
Don't have a secondary.
And so the next thing was, what if I cancel the well and can I tap into water? Because Talladega has water at the road. So I call them, say, well, our system is at capacity, so there's a wait list. It'll probably be 2025 till we can get you water. And I was like, well,
you have to tap the well.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then I'm like, well, can you get water somewhere else? I'm by a lake. Can I just pull it from the lake and filter it?
Truck water in.
Yeah, well, so I can filter the lake. I can pull from the lake, have a whole filtration system, and supply the houses from that. And it'll cost $20,000 to do it.
So what does that look like? You just dig an underground pipe?
And you have a pipe that just goes into the water, goes up to a pump, and goes to your filtration, a holding tank, filtration systems, this whole thing. And and then think, because we were kind of this is what we're going to do. So kind of sitting on that and saying, all right, Well, if you got to do that, then I'm probably going to put signs like, hey, this water comes from the lake. It is filtered. It goes through this whole system, but if you don't want to drink it, don't drink it. And we may have those like like 5-gallon water cooler things everywhere. I was like, it's not really ideal, but
Yeah, sure.
I'm kind of pushed into a corner.
Yeah.
What else can I do? So this is a long set. This is like
No,
my,
man,
my
this is
saga.
crazy. It's what you're dealing with, yeah.
So I'm like, all right, well, and that's the next, on top of the quadrupled expense on the septic, I've got another 20 grand to filter this whole thing. I'm like, this is blowing my budget way out of the water, pun intended. So how else can we solve this problem? So I need, the initial thing of canceling the wells was because I don't have more room. Can I buy more land, right? And is that going to be cheaper than 20 grand essentially? Mm-hmm. So there's 21 acres, 0 waterfront, just kind of landlocked across the street. And that's what I'm dealing with right now is, can I get the engineer to basically A-OK if we have a secondary area that's probably never going to be used across the street? And if he says yes, I'm going to go to that owner, which actually has those 21 acres for sale on the market, and just, hey, can I give you $1,000 to give me this little square?
Yeah.
Because I've got to have it for the health department. And we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
So that's where I'm at, man. It's been a
creative problem solving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing, like, I guess it's not the engineer's responsibility. And engineers are very stereotypically, not all of them are like this, but just very black and white, like it's either this way or not. So they won't think creatively. Mm-hmm. And me not knowing what I don't know is like, I'm kind of looking at you to give me some options here. And they haven't. So it's been kind of frustrating of like, all right, I've got to first learn about it and then be the creative on like, how can we solve this problem? So
I feel like you thrive in those situations, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Like, here's a puzzle. I could solve it.
Yeah. But man, so that's been like the biggest, just like banging my head against the wall.
So basically, you just need a safety net across the street, and then everything else on the property will be as is. Yeah.
It all works.
You have enough room to make it.
Well, I think I'm still waiting. The newest engineer went out last week, and I'm waiting to hear back from him. So he just went to look at the space for the first time, and then he'll come up with something.
Or he'll hit the road.
Yeah. Well, the first ones, and this is where like I'm learning. The first ones, I was like, here's what I think. Shouldn't have done that. So this guy, I just said, hey, I need it. Go out and tell me what I need. So I didn't give him any direction.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because I think what I did was handicap those first guys to say, think inside my box, because this is what I'm thinking. Where like I shouldn't have done that because I don't know what they know. They know way more than me about how this should be done. So I don't know. We'll see.
Just see what happens. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, going back to the more fun stuff, or I don't know if this is fun stuff. You guys had talked about doing. I think I heard at one point a volleyball court, putting green, putt golf course. Is any of that still in the works?
I'd love to do it. It's all kind of on hold because of the septic deal.
Sure.
So
priorities.
Cost, priorities, but also where is that engineered system going to go and what can I do around it? Mm-hmm. And that I don't know.
That'll be limited.
Yeah, and so the putt is in an area where I'm super confident it won't be affected, and so we should be good on that. I want to do a pickleball court close to the water, so like you drive by on a boat, you see people playing. It'd just be super cool.
Sure.
But I think it goes like right where the system might be. So I've got to figure that out.
Fingers crossed.
But so kind of bring that full circle because I gave pause or question to, are we going to sell that guest house? One of the things is this engineered system, the only option may be to have one big system for both houses.
At that point, you'd have to keep the guest house.
And I can't sell it with like a shared system, right?
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, I guess I could, but no one wants that.
Yeah, no.
And so if that's the case, it just kind of marries the two together, which hurts our return because we're way deep into that house, but allows us to sleep probably 28
So
people.
what would the future be? And I'm sure you've ran that scenario. If you keep the guest house, would you just keep it part of the Airbnb, or would that be your personal getaway, or what would that look like?
No, we'd pair it with it.
Okay.
And I think this is down the line, so I really haven't put a lot of thought into it, but definitely have it as an option of, hey, this is an event. Being able to sleep 25 plus people, it turns into kind of an event space.
Sure, yeah.
And so what amenities do we need to provide to go along with that? But also, if someone just wants the castle and they're, only 10 people, then let's separate and have a separate listing for the guest house where someone just wants a normal, not crazy castle experience and just a 3-bedroom, 2-bath on the water.
Sure.
So so that preliminary, the thought that I've given to it so far is that's the options. And I always think back to, I listen to podcasts and read books about people interviewing successful older investors that have been in the game 30 plus years. And they always say, I've never been mad about property that I've kept. Or they'll always say, what's one thing you would change? And besides going bigger sooner, it'd be, I wish I didn't sell any of my property. I wish I kept everything.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And it's just because 20 years from now, I would rather have both of those than just the castle.
Sure.
No doubt. Does it make sense to get to that 20-year mark?
Keep it,
right?
yeah.
And that's where. So, I don't know. I'm not mad about having to keep it, but it's just such a pivot.
Yeah.
It's okay, how now let's kind of, we got to change our game plan a little bit because that's a big pivot.
Well, you talked about the event space. There may be a lot of people wanting to hold events, whatever that looks like.
Right. Well, and that's you kind of come from that world a little bit. So the question I got to get with people like you to say what amenities would be expected.
I can give you some tidbits. Right? I would think, depending on what genre you want to go into.
Yeah.
But there may be a lot of people that want to have a wedding on the lake or something. Who knows?
Yeah. So.
That's pretty cool.
Well, so I was talking with someone, and they're I was telling them about the 21 acres, and they're like, what if you just buy that whole thing and turn it into a whole event, and then you've got and I was like, this turned into
how deep do you want to go on this? Yeah. This is turning into a massive
we're still
project.
in Alpine, Alabama. I don't know.
You'd be surprised, man. I've seen a lot of really successful, being wedding photographer for 10 years plus. All the places we got to go, and some of these off the beaten path, random nowhereville, Alabama, and then this beautiful picturesque venue, and then talking to the owners, they're like, "Oh yeah, we're booked 50 weeks out of the year."
Wow.
People discover us, and they're like, "Oh, my daughter's getting married, and then my daughter's friend is getting married." It just spreads like wildfire, and people that just that's what I thought I wanted to do was just build a cool place. Live there full time and basically just rent it out on the weekends. And there's a lot of successful people that do that. So pretty
that's
cool
true.
lifestyle.
It's that would be pivot. I think would be an understatement to go from, hey, I'm just going to get a lake Airbnb as a unique castle to
it becomes a whole thing.
Running an event space.
An event space. So the sky's the limit. So
it really is. So we'll see.
Well, before we finish, one of the most unique aspects is the drawbridge that you guys have. Any progress on that?
No.
Or maybe I saw, not to interrupt, but are you guys having to change your plans with parking? It seemed like maybe I saw a video about maybe that's kind of getting switched up a little bit.
Initially, I was going to kind of go back to those quadrants, trying to so quadrant 1 has a circle drive in it. At the road, there's, you got a tree line. The circle drive's kind of in the tree line. There's parking without coming past that circle drive for 20 cars. There's more than enough parking for everybody. But it's kind of up a little. You got to walk through quadrant 2, into quadrant 3, top of the castle, and then you'll see when you go across the drawbridge to get to where you're dropping your stuff as a guest, you're going down 4 flights of stairs, and they're tight, so we kind of going back to the quadrants. Quadrant 1 has a little circle drive that's inside the tree line, and then there's a lot of parking at the road, so you could probably put 20 cars there just between those spaces. The issue is how much you have to travel walking with your gear,
groceries,
your stuff.
And all that stuff,
Especially, groceries, because the kitchen, if you go through you walk through quadrant 2 into quadrant 3, drawbridge, and then you're going down 2 flights of steps to get to the kitchen, but across it's just far. And so we were thinking, how can we, how important is that? Because I was could I put the pickleball court up there, or is parking more important? And now that I think the pickleball court can go quadrant 4, close to the water, can we get parking a little bit closer to give people
at least to get one vehicle at a time or something where you can pull up and
Yeah,
load?
that's kind of what I'm thinking. So still working through that. Again, that's so much of that kind of stuff is up in the air based off what I have to do septic wise. It's kind of put a pause on all those things, which is good because those aren't bottlenecks, right?
Sure.
I mean, landscaping, parking, it all kind of comes towards the end.
Yeah.
I just like to have my plan, right?
Yeah.
I get kind of anxious. So that's where we're at. Drawbridge mechanics is still same kind of thing. I don't need that work until the end, and so that hasn't really been my focus. I've got kind of a general idea of what I think needs to happen, but just hadn't put anything together past that because it's, HVAC decisions, plumbing decisions. We're ordering a lot of material, so tile, tubs, plumbing fixtures, all that is getting decided and ordered in the past month, and we've got a couple more decisions to make coming up. So that's been priority over those other things.
Well, the decking looks like it's coming along pretty good.
Oh, man,
so
yeah.
that looks great.
Dude, shout out to my decking crew. Like, they is amazing. They had like 9 to 12 guys on site every day, and they just cranked
Knocked
it
it out.
It was amazing. They did all the trim on the exterior.
But to say they matched the trim well, and
Dude,
and all that.
I'll have to put this video up, but they cut little ducks like this big that goes on the fascia board on the exterior because
Really?
there used to be some, and they were just kind of rotting off. They took a little jigsaw and just cut ducks out. And it's like, these guys are awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I am curious. I think the color right now, if I'm not mistaken, is kind of a yellow or a beige color. So I'm curious to see what color palette you guys go with and how that turns out.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting.
Well, man, that's cool to get an update about that project. I don't know a lot of people that would be willing to undertake a project like that. And I hope maybe this latest engineer will get you guys squared away as far as getting some finalized, getting some questions answered, and being able to move forward. I know that's frustrating going through however many engineers you've gone through so far.
Yeah. We just a couple, but we'll get it there.
It's still shooting for next year.
First of next year.
Okay.
Yeah. So the goal is to have it done into the year, into January, probably with finishes and furnishings, all that kind of stuff. Spend February throwing parties, making sure it works, right? Where are the kinks, working those out, and then going live March is the goal.
Okay. And you guys will have the hot tub and the whole nine.
Oh, yeah.
All that stuff. Awesome.
Yeah. Got to get my dock design. Super pumped about what it's going to be. I'll leave that as a little cliffhanger too. But I think it's going to be cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably the most interesting, fun projects you've got going on. Anything else going on in your life?
Man, a bunch of little stuff. I'm great at starting. I'm great on the front end of projects. So.
The Land Cruiser.
Land Cruiser.
I saw one for sale in Mountain Brook, and it was the same color as yours. And I was like, "Is Blake giving up on his Land Cruiser project?" And I almost sent you a text. I was like, "Hey, is that your Land Cruiser on Rocky Ridge that's for sale? Did you just bail on it?"
No, I haven't bailed on it. No, I'm in it for the long haul. The most recent, I'm driving it. Like I almost brought it down here this morning, but it's got a misfire on the right side of the engine, and it's had it. I replaced O2 sensors. That didn't fix it. And after I spent about $100 on those, or a little bit more, I realized I didn't have to check it, but we're here. And then I learned the catalytic converters could be clogged, and that could be like sending the exhaust back to the engine, which messes it up.
Hey, you just cut that off, man.
Right, yeah. So we fixed those, like got them done, and it solved it. Like the shake from the misfire is like less noticeable, but it's still throwing the code, and I can still feel it. And so I don't know what to do. I'm kind of stuck. So
yeah, I have no knowledge about that.
So that's where it's at. Also, I don't know if I told you this or not, but when we dropped the gas tank to replace the fuel filter, cleaned it out. When we put it back on, we didn't replace the gasket for the gas tank to the nozzle where you fill it up. And so the first time I went and filled it all the way up,
just leak everywhere.
In the middle of the gas station, just pouring under the car.
Oh my gosh!
And I was terrified.
What's more terrifying than that?
Like, this is not good. But kind of once I stopped freaking out, deductive reasoning is it only happened when it topped it off. So I'm like, okay, there's not a hole in the gas tank. Like it's got to be something up there. The only thing that makes sense is that gasket. So that's so I need to drop the tank. I haven't yet. I basically because I put in 20 gallons.
So you got it's heavy.
I mean that's 180 pounds of gas. Like I can't be up under that gas tank holding.
No.
So I was basically like, all right, and on top of that, the gauge doesn't work. And so it's kind of a guessing game of when I'm going to run out of gas.
Oh my gosh.
So I've got one of those trailer grate things on the back, or a hitch. I don't know what you call them.
Extra gas tank or something.
Yeah, I've got a gallon of gas sitting back there. And so I've just been driving around, just waiting for it to go out, put like enough to get me home, put it up on the ramps, and then drop it and fix it.
Yeah, I had to do that in an S10 once. So I had just put fuel in there, and the way an S10 is top of the gas tank, that's where the fuel filter is, which has gone
Okay.
bad. Fuel filter, fuel pump, I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's basically you can either take off the truck bed or you can drop the tank. And so we opted to drop the tank, and it was full of fuel, and it was a pain. And we were in the parking lot of what was Circuit City in Patton Creek, and
Yeah.
we're out there working on a truck middle of the summer.
That's funny.
So been there.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the Land Cruiser. You know, I want to get the misfire fixed, and then I need tires because I've got like one dry rotted tire that's not leaking air, but you know it's a ticking time bomb.
Sure.
So I want to do that, and then I want to start like, okay, this car's functional, works great. Now let's start having some fun with it. Let's get a roof rack and maybe put a lift on it.
Do some off-roading. Hey, hit me
Yeah.
up, man. I've been wanting to take my truck out to like, I know there's like some 4x4 trails in
Yeah.
like, Talladega National Forest and stuff.
I've never done it, so
I've
I'm
never done
in.
it either. I've been telling my buddy Austin, shout out to him, I need him to go with me so that he can kind of show me the ropes
Yeah.
and like where to go
Make
and
sure I
stuff.
don't destroy the car.
Yeah, and we just can't get our schedules aligned. He
Yeah.
works a lot. And
Well, I'm
stuff,
in. Once I get this thing going, I'm
Yeah.
in because that's what it's going to be, a play car, a little
Yeah.
extra car. So yeah, I got that, and then this past week, my dad's an electrical engineer, but he's just super handy on everything, and he came over and he was like, I've got like half done projects in my basement. I've got a zero turn a client gave me that's just not working. One of my mini electric bikes is not working. What else did we work on? Oh, one of the Hoover house we flipped. I negotiated in a massive generator. It's like 13,000 watt generator, but it's not working. And so it's like all these things. It's just like need some
Just
attention.
broken.
So he came over Thursday, man, and we went through all three of those things and either got them working or found the problem and ordered
Yeah.
parts. And so I'm like feeling productive, getting like
just
get
little
it cleaned out.
projects and
Yeah.
stuff.
So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, that's
Just rocking
good to hear, man. Always a good conversation.
Yeah.
Hear what you have going on. Very interesting conversation as always. And for anybody that's new listening to this podcast or just discovering you, I think it's always good to kind of give a refresher. What's the best way they could reach out to you, either if they're looking for a realtor or they're just
Yeah.
more interested in content like this?
Yeah, so I try to be super findable on just the internet. So Googling my name, if you got to put Arc Realty next to it, then I'll definitely pop up. Find my telephone and email and everything on there. Feel free to give me a call. Give us feedback on the channels you see this on, and then Instagram, Facebook, TikTok is where we live on those platforms. So
Yeah, I definitely follow the Castle Project.
Yeah.
You can go back and listen to previous episodes we've done on that from the time that, I mean, it was a cool conversation just hearing how you acquired it to how you decided to turn it into an Airbnb and then just all the challenges that you've gone through and all
Yeah.
the hurdles and stuff. And once it finally comes to fruition, it's going to be a really cool place.
and it's going to be fun, man. And it's me responding. If you shoot me a DM, it's coming to me. And you're getting my answers. It's not a VA or anybody giving auto responses. So would love to hear from you.
All right. Well, Blake, as always, great talking with you. And until next time,
Sweet. See ya.
take it easy.